You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. So Fallout 4 has about 37 settlements. There are 30 in Fallout 4 Vanilla, with one being added by Automatron, Vault-Tec Workshop, and Nuka World, with 4 being added in the Far Harbor DLC. Now, for the most part, most of these settlements are fairly decent and allow for a large amount of customization, they have sufficient build space, and are in a great location. While some of these settlements require you to build around various pre-war structures, you'll find that getting around this in most cases isn't too much of a hassle. However, there are some settlements which I think could be considered to be truly lousy, even awful in some cases. Some of this is the result of bizarre design decisions, small building space, and in some cases, you're going to find that the surrounding area is relatively low on scrappable resources. Even worse, some areas don't let you scrap normally scrappable objects. Today, I'm going to be going over 8 of what I think are some of the worst settlement locations in Fallout 4. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Number 8. TENPINES BLUFF. There's a good chance that really early on in Fallout 4, you're going to encounter Preston Garvey, and he will task you with doing some work for the Minutemen. One of the first places that Preston Garvey will send you is to go and help the settlers of TENPINES BLUFF. Once you're there, you're usually sent to either Corvega Assembly Plant or some other location. When you return, the settlers will give you access to the workshop, allowing you to build whatever you please. Upon trying to scrap things throughout the settlement, you'll notice that the white shack with the busted up walls, as well as the shack that the settlers normally sleep in, cannot be scrapped. And there's also the small stone walls that outline the garden that also can't be scrapped. This means you're forced to work around existing structures and build things around these pesky small stone walls. You also can't move the 2 original settlers until a supply line is established. This means that early on, there is a possibility that you won't even be able to move these settlers for quite some time, though I will admit that will depend on your charisma level and whether you have the local leader perk or not. I guess it's not all bad though. You can at least plant a sufficient amount of crops here because this settlement is perfectly set up to be a farm. It might be a good idea to still build a recruitment beacon here and set up a supply line with Sanctuary Hills. That way you can get a decent amount of supplies flowing in both directions. Number 7. Outpost ZIMONJA. So Outpost ZIMONJA is pretty close to TENPINES BLUFF. You have to be careful while initially approaching this settlement, as one of the raiders located here is equipped in power armor and is wielding a Fat Man launcher. Your best bet is going to be to sneak up on him and try to kill him before he fires it. Or you could approach from far away and duck behind some terrain in an attempt to avoid the blast. Otherwise, taking this settlement is pretty easy. Just kill all of the hostiles and the outpost is yours. My main issue with this settlement is that it's very far north on the map, and the only thing that is close is TENPINES BLUFF. You really have to go out of your way to get to this place. There are other issues with this settlement as well though. Just south of the settlement, there is a truck with a turret inside that will remain hostile, even after you've taken the settlement. There's also some issues with the stairs in this settlement. You can scrap the object that the stairs lead up to, however this doesn't remove the stairs, and you can't scrap the stairs unless you're using console commands on the PC version of the game. And this is weird considering that the stairs being used here are one of the build assets that you can use for Fallout 4 settlement mode. I suppose this settlement isn't all bad though. While other settlements have much higher building limits, Outpost ZIMONJA has the 4th highest build limit in the game with a maximum of 12 stories. Like I said, Outpost ZIMONJA could be worse, but it's still not particularly great. Number 6. The SLOG. So the SLOG is just west of Dunwich Borers and is just north of Saugus Ironworks, and has several inhabitants already. While this settlement starts off with an armor workbench and a cooking station, due to most of this area's layout, it can prove to be somewhat difficult to build here. You're mostly stuck with building inside the concrete structure and just around the pool on the concrete. According to the Fallout Wiki, the beds here can be moved, however they can't be scrapped, and this is because the beds were assigned as NPC owned. Of course, you can build a floor, move a bed onto that, and then scrap the floor to get the beds to disappear. I would say the main problem with this settlement is that it's in close proximity to both Saugus Ironworks and the Hub City Auto Wreckers. If your settlers pick a fight with the Forged at Saugus, the gunners at Hub City Auto Wreckers can get involved. Typically, when this settlement is attacked by raiders, they come from the south where Saugus Ironworks is. So if you haven't cleared that area, or it's been a while since you've cleared it, one raider attack can trigger an all-out war between your settlers, Saugus Ironworks' Forged faction, and the Gunners. With all of this said, the SLOG usually has a few settlers and both the means of food and water production to sustain itself. Assuming you built sufficient defenses and upgraded what was there, it would actually be a pretty decent settlement. Just expect to get into a lot of fights. Number 5, the Boston Airport. So the Boston Airport is actually a pretty cool location, especially once the Brotherhood of Steel have arrived in the Commonwealth. Having a settlement near the Brotherhood of Steel sounds amazing until you realize a couple of major glaring issues. While scrapping things isn't a real issue, you can't build many essential objects that are needed to make a great settlement. So you can't build things like water purifiers, recruitment beacons, guard posts, artillery guns, stores, or scavenging stations. So this means that the Boston Airport is probably only going to produce dirty water. You have to send settlers here directly. Only turrets can be used to increase the settlement defense, and settlers here can't be used to scavenge for supplies. To make matters worse, you can't place crops or build garden plots here either. The only point of this settlement is so that the Brotherhood can build the teleporter to get into the Institute and to rebuild parts of Liberty Prime. Honestly, I think this is a shame because the foundation you have to build on here is virtually flat. So building here could have potentially worked really well, especially when compared to a lot of the other settlements in this game. Plus the Brotherhood of Steel are nearby, and it seems like Bethesda had the opportunity to do something really cool with this settlement. But I guess it is what it is. Number 4, the MECHANIST'S Lair. The MECHANIST'S Lair is a location that you can acquire as a settlement for completing the Automatron DLC. While it's worth coming here to get some building schematics as well as some other supplies, the MECHANIST'S Lair makes a bad settlement for humans. Just like the Boston Airport, you can't build basic structures you need, like a scavenging station, recruitment beacon, or a trading post. And as you might expect, you can't plant crops or build a garden plot here, so having a settlement consisting of humans is out of the questions. However, the advantage of the MECHANIST'S Lair is that it does come complete with a robot workbench, which will allow you to build robot companions. Assuming you decided to link a supply line to this settlement, you could build an automatron to act as a provisioner to send to another settlement of your choice. The MECHANIST'S Lair makes a better home base for storing your items. While you can build some decent sized structures here, there isn't really any point since you can't really establish any sort of complex settlement here. While this place is better than home plate as far as a player house is concerned, the MECHANIST'S Lair is a fairly lousy settlement. Number 3, Jamaica Plain. I've always found the task of acquiring Jamaica Plain as a settlement daunting and not really worth the reward of doing so. The first time you go to this location, you discover that it's a fairly large pre-war town that's infested with ghouls. After doing some searching, you may discover there is a settlement workbench, and you may start to think that you're going to get the opportunity to rebuild this entire town into a Minutemen settlement. So you go ahead and kill the 50 to 100 plus ghouls in this area and open up the workbench to discover what is possibly one of the smallest settlement building areas in Fallout 4. You're limited to a small portion of the southernmost point in the town, and it's baffling that this is the case when you consider that Spectacle Island takes up about the same amount of space and you can build almost anywhere on that island. To make matters worse, there are few scrappable resources in this area, and considerable items like defunct cars are just outside the limits of things that you can scrap. While there is an open area to plant crops, you can't plant crops anywhere in this open area, and you have to rely on garden plots. I'd say the most egregious sin here is that of the two houses that are on this settlement property, one of them is completely inaccessible. So you basically have a giant structure that is in the way and can't be scrapped to place new buildings on. So essentially, you've got a small enough area to begin with, and then a significant portion of it is unusable. Overall, Jamaica Plain is a real shame. This area had so much potential because it is a great location. It's just that there are too many drawbacks. Number 2, MURKWATER construction site. This settlement is located in the middle of the swamp towards the south end of the map. Upon arriving at the MURKWATER construction site for the first time, you will have to kill a Mirelurk queen and several Mirelurks just to gain access to this area. Once you finally manage to access this area to use as a settlement, you'll discover that it's one of the smallest building sites in the game. Not only that, but things like the yellow excavator can't be scrapped, and the dilapidated house can prove difficult to restore. To make matters even worse, there's a possibility that the Mirelurk queen that you just killed can respawn here, even after you've established your settlement. Really, the big disadvantages to building here are some of the unscrappable objects and the overall small size of the settlement itself. You may find building elsewhere is easier. Plus, since it's toward the southernmost portion of the map, there isn't really a whole lot else to explore after coming here, so it might not be worth establishing a settlement here at all. That said, one nice thing about MURKWATER is that building a water purifier here is really easy. However, building things like housing or places for your settlers to sleep can prove to be somewhat difficult. This is going to be a settlement that you will need to send supply lines to, or just buy up a bunch of supplies from vendors and then just bring them here. Ultimately, I think that there are better settlements out there. Number 1. Coastal Cottage. So Coastal Cottage is a settlement located just north of Dunwich Borers and Hugo's Hold towards the northeastern part of the map. The area consists of a small barn and a destroyed cottage with a massive hole in the middle of it. This settlement can prove to be fairly difficult to build at, mostly because of that blasted hole in the middle of the cottage and because of the general unevenness of the surrounding area. Plus, if you haven't linked any of your other settlements to this one via supply lines, this settlement doesn't really have a decent amount of objects to scrap, so you can at least build some moderate defenses. Due to the issues of building upon what's been provided at the settlement, your best course of action is to build an elevated house above all of the land here. You're also going to need to supply this settlement with materials from a nearby settlement due to the relatively low starting resources. That said, Makara fish packing is close by and can prove to be a reliable source of aluminum. You could also try to visit the nearby area of Salem and scavenge for some supplies as well. You're going to have a hard time building here though, and due to the nature of the high-level enemies within the area, you're going to want to keep this place well defended. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and let me know, what do you think is the worst settlement in Fallout 4? As always, like this video if you liked it, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see you all next time.